Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the match preview. It is the Merseyside derby, the last ever Merseyside derby at Goodison Park, and the last ever night game at Goodison Park as well. It's getting real, isn't it? All these little things starting to get ticked off. James and myself here to discuss, obviously, the big game on Wednesday night. 7:30 kickoff. I hate 7:30 kickoffs. It's just too early. It's too early. It is too early. But in terms of the Premier League, forget the other stuff. In terms of the Premier League, obviously Everton are coming into this game off the back of 3 Premier League wins back to back. Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a good way to come into it.
That's a lot better than sort of the general form of when this Merseyside derby should have been. Obviously, in the 7th of December, we know it obviously called off. We had come into that. We would have been coming into that game obviously off the back of a win, but obviously it was a different time, and it would have been the start of 4 very tough games. We ended up drawing the other 3, but. Do you feel better that this game was rearranged and is being played, obviously, this week?
At the time, yeah. I think, although we did just beat Wolves 4-0, don't think anyone was overly impressed by the Everton that we were then and thought, we're going to go to the league leaders and take points off them. But I think now, obviously, we're going into with 3 wins. There's a lot more positivity around the club, and you see more from the players that we have got, the likes of Lindstrom, Beto, O'Brien, and stuff that we didn't see under Dice. So I think, I've said it from the start, if you've watched any of the live shows, I'm confident we'll get a win. I don't know if that's just bias talking or whatever, but I just feel like with it being the last season at Goodison, everyone will be together and there will be that sort of fight that you don't usually get. And I can just see us win.
Fair play to you. I like it. I like the positivity. Liverpool have won their last 3 Premier League games as well, beating Bournemouth, Ipswich, Brentford, and a draw with Forest before that. They have lost 3 games, but they were all in the cup. 2 of them didn't really matter, and the one obviously over the weekend, Plymouth, was obviously a much changed team. But it's obviously going to be a very tough game, isn't it? Obviously, Liverpool, top of the league, they have an opportunity to stretch their lead to 9 points. Yeah. So for them, it's a really pivotal game. It is that game in hand, and if they win it, you would think, you can't really see Arsenal getting back to anywhere near them. Yeah. Obviously they're going to be looking for us to do a big favour, but for us, if we could get a win in this game, and obviously we beat them last season, and it was a really big game last season for us, wasn't it? It was in that week where we won 3 in a row, and it really obviously cemented our Premier League status. But if we could win this game, get up to 29 points with Palace at the weekend, it would be huge, wouldn't it, for the season? Yeah,
it'd be massive, and as you were saying, sort of with this Premier League title race, it's always been, Liverpool have that game in hand now. And I think now, especially Arsenal fans will be looking at this game, and it sort of gets everyone back to being on a level playing field, and you will see the actual differences in the teams. And I think Everton have a great chance to sort of pull it back, because as you said, 9 points, that's a bit too far out of reach, but 6, with this much of the season to go, is definitely doable for Arsenal, and will give them that extra bit of confidence. But I'm not really thinking about that now. I'm just thinking about Everton, and I think when you talk about the likes of Palace and stuff, you never really mention relegation at all with them. And so if Everton could get on level points with them, hopefully we can start just getting rid of that word completely, and we can all be a bit more positive and enjoy the final few games of Goodison rather than worrying all the time about whether we're going to get pulled back into wherever, which I don't think ultimately will happen. I think too far gone now, but yeah, it's key for both teams, and it'll be good to finally just get rid of that one game so you can see where you actually stand in the league. Yeah,
Liverpool have only beaten us at Goodison Park. I think it's a couple of times in the last 10 years, and obviously when Rafa Benitez was the manager, obviously they convincingly beat us 4-1. Which obviously was a dark night, especially because Rafa Benitez was the manager. But we've done well against them. Obviously, a lot of draws. Last year was the first time we'd actually beaten them for over 10 years. But a lot of draws, and it was capped off last year with a great win. It was a fantastic night last year. It was, I don't know, there was something just there was something special about it. Just almost like with 20 minutes to go, feeling like we're not going to be beaten here tonight.
Weird confidence.
Yeah, there was a weird confidence about us last year, about just because, as I said, with 20 minutes to go, that feeling of like these aren't going to come back into this game. You know, it was different circumstances last year. I mean, different manager. Going into the latter stages of the season, Liverpool was starting to look tired. Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a fantastic game, but obviously we're gonna have to cope without him this game, and it's gonna be tough because I'm not 100% sure how we're going to play. Obviously, the 3 wins in the Premier League, we've played out from the back. Listen, Brighton away was a bit different, but the 2 home games, we've played out from the back, we've broken the press, and it's enabled us to score goals. But what we saw on Saturday against Bournemouth in the Cup was a team that fantastic presses, and they really didn't give us too many options in the first half. We caused our own problems, losing the ball, certainly for the second one, but better up front for all the good he showed the week before against Leicester, being on the run, one-on-one with the keeper. In this game, we couldn't get him involved. We couldn't get him to hold the ball. We didn't have an out ball. And that's going to make it very interesting, I think, on Wednesday for how tactically we go into it and how Liverpool look to play against us as well.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right with it. You know, when you look at that 2-0 win last year, a big part of it was, you know, the battle that Calvert-Lewin had with the 2 centre-halves, and, you know, using his physicality and his ability in the air to sort of progress the ball that way and go from there. And I don't think Beto has that. And I think, as you said, Moyes is definitely going to have to change something, because Beto's sort of best style of playing, what we've seen and what you've seen in his last club, was he played in behind and he runs onto it and he uses his muscle to sort of outpower the 2 defenders. And I think with Van Dijk and Konate, which I assume would be the 2, he's not going to have that many chances to be able to do that. And I think it's much like the Bournemouth game, it's more suited to a Calvert-Lewin where you can hit it up to him and you can take it down and sort of help you get up that way. But on the same hand, we've just played Bournemouth, who did presses high, and hopefully we've learned something from them games where we can take it into this one, sort of adapt our team, knowing what we're sort of going to face in a bit of a different way, but we know we're going to face high pressing, and see what we learn from it, and then hopefully go on from there, produce a good performance out of it.
Yeah, listen, I don't know whether David Moyes has got tactics specifically for this game. I don't know whether he'll go back to what you would look at as Sean Dyche's team as being a little bit more defensive. But obviously what we have seen is obviously the ability at the back to go from a 4 to a 3 to a 5. It's more about how we play out, really. Can we get out? We have to find a way to get out. I'm not 100% sure that's going to be Jordan Pickford passing to James Tarkowski, but we have to have some kind of out ball. If that means manoeuvring it to the wide areas and playing diagonals into the wide men on the other side, maybe so. Or if the Corey starts, maybe using him as the player you play off, and then having Beto drop in a little bit. I'm not sure, but it can't be the same as what it was on Saturday against Bournemouth, because we'll find it very, very tough. They will not, the way they play, they will not really allow us to get out from the back. So we have to find that hybrid. I'm just not sure what it is yet, because as I said, we've seen one end of the spectrum and then the other end of the spectrum on Saturday. And of course, this is where I think the manager would obviously start at Dominic Calvert-Lewin over Beto, I think, and that's why, because you do have that outball, you do have that presence up front to start the attacks from if you need an outball. And obviously when you're a team like Everton who've been struggling all season, you will need that outball, you will need that player up front who's going to take the pressure off. You don't want to be playing it around the back. We've seen how dangerous that is at the top end of the table. We've seen that, for Man City and against Man City recently. So you don't want to be doing that all the time. You can. Yes, I can understand why you want to suck people in and then break the press and how much, but against some of the better sides, we can't be kidding ourselves. This is an Everton team who've been very, very poor all season, and just a change of philosophy is not going to suddenly make us world beaters. And I think some people found that out the hard way on Saturday against Bournemouth. Like, suddenly we're not this amazing football team. We're trying to play higher up the pitch. We're trying to play a little bit more on the front foot, because what was the point of losing games 1-0 if you weren't going to have a go? We're having a go now, but against the better sides, it's risky. Of course, it's risky. For me, I just find it's going to be very, very interesting what happens on.
I think there's a lot of big decisions, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think ultimately, we haven't sort of got that aerial threat anymore where we can hit it up to somebody can take it down. So something's going to have to change. Yeah. And I think something that's been discussed is sort of how the Corey and Beto have a sort of similar style where it is a bit more chaotic, but it's effective. But I don't think for a game like this you can play them both, and it be as effective as something else. So maybe it's playing Decore in a deeper role and having someone like James Garner or Ndiaye, someone who's better on the ball and can sort of spot a pass and has better technical ability. I don't know, but this definitely is a big decision because I think playing both of them two as the sort of two, I just don't think it'll work personally, but there's not really too many options to really choose from.
Well, what would you do, with the team? Because obviously Mykolenko wasn't available on the weekend, and we hopefully he'll be back because he does play as a higher starting position, and he handles those one-on-ones a lot better than he's given credit for at times. But what would you? Obviously, Alcaraz came on Saturday. What is there any changes you would look at making and think, in this game we'll play Alcaraz instead of Decore? Do you think it's still a little bit early for that kind of way of thinking?
Yeah, I do think it's a bit too early to just throw him in right away. But something has to be different because I don't think what we've done against Bournemouth's going to work with them too. But as you said, Mykolenko coming back in is a huge positive because, sort of the big praises he gets is his sort of defensive side of his game. And, you've seen him come against Saka and Salah and stuff, and he's had really good games against them. And as you said, with Moyes, he started to progress a bit further. He's whipping in nicer balls and stuff like that. On the other hand, Jake O'Brien, I think he's also a good player to have at right back because you look at like Salah and you look at some of the assists he get, and it's them sort of balls to the back post where like Gakpo and stuff knock them in. So I think they're two really good options to have, and it's the ability to have it as a 3. But it's the attacking options because in an ideal world, I'd say play maybe a James Garner further up who has a bit of a nicer touch you can lay Beto in. Yeah. And you have like a Mangala further back or maybe even play Decore further back, but just that lack of options really that you don't really have a lot of players to mess about with. No,
that's the key, isn't it? It's the complete lack of options. Liverpool will have so many different players that are available to them, and we've got, you looked at the bench on Saturday and we're really scratching around, and you look at like Timmy Abraham and Alcaraz. Timmy Abraham has been out for months and has come back with 10-15 minute cameos. Alcaraz had 25 minutes on Saturday. He's only been in the country for 3 or 4 days. There's not much there. We saw that with Michael Keane having to go up front. People might laugh, but that's where we are at the moment. It's not. It's horrible because you've got 3 injured centre forwards. So it's not. You can bemoan the fact of going, well, why didn't we go out and get one? But you've got 3 sitting in the treatment room that should be back within, at least one of them or 2 of them should be back within a month. So you've got, they're coming back, but there's nothing you can do about it, and you have to hold off on bringing Michael Keane on if he's the one to come on, and it is a little bit shameful. It is. I'm not against Michael Keane, by the way, but it is a little bit shameful. You have to bring a centre back on. Other teams will have done it, of course. It's not like it's shameful actually in one way that we don't have a young lad who's ready to come on the pitch. But that tells you what more about the story of the whole of the club in the last 5-6 years of anyone that we've had that's any good, we've had to sell, like a Tom Cannon or an Ellis Sims, anyone near that level we've had to sell, or there's just not the right crossover, whether Sheriff or whatever, just not at that level right now. So there are such a lack of options, and we saw that the weekend with Patterson and Mykolenko picking up injuries. You looked at the bench and suddenly there's 3 young kids on the bench and there's 2 goalkeepers every game. So it is really, really hard, and in many ways I'm glad we didn't play this game in December, but in another way I really wish it wasn't this week as well. I really wish it was in a month's time when we did have more players back, and maybe Liverpool were in the midst of being a month more tireder and haven't played games in more games in the Champions League. I feel like this is a great time for them to play. Most of their players didn't have to play at the weekend. But they're all excuses, aren't they? They're all just excuses.
Well,
at the end of the
McAllister in the last one, now they've got him.
At the end of the day, the quality of the two teams and the quality of the two squads are night and day.
Yeah.
David Moyes has to come up with some way of playing for the players he's got, and that's all it comes down to. And I just thought on Saturday we were so shell-shocked for the first.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to say 20 minutes, but it was like 45 minutes. We were so shell-shocked of like, we cannot break this team down and we don't have an outball. In many ways, we're going to have to go, at times, longer than the centre-forward in this game. We're going to have to go almost like, go as long as we can, bypass the centre-forward, and then get all our players up front and try and win the ball back in their half. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's where the difficulty comes from. It's such a hard one to call, but anyway, let's talk about something happier. Mo Salah. He's an alright player, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, you can just see his stats there. Appearances 23, goals 21. His XG is 18. Is our team's XG 18? No. Assists 13, shots per game 3.9, and you can see his heat map there, all on the right-hand side. And obviously, Mykolenko, if it is Mykolenko, we hope, has a really tough job on his hands. But he is just an extraordinary footballer who just seems to be getting better with age and is more like, I don't know, just like cultivating all the best attributes of his game. And we've found it so difficult to stop him in the past. We have done, and Mykolenko has done, but he obviously is one major part of their team that we're going to have to find a way of stopping, aren't we?
I think it's almost overlooked how good he is for Liverpool sometimes, because you see Liverpool will be winning like maybe 1-0 or they'll be 0-0, and he puts it onto his left, and then it's so effortless to finish every time. And it's like, he's done it countless times that he's just become used to it, and it's going to be hard to defend against. But as you said, Mykolenko's done it before, and you can hope that maybe he gets something against them. But it'll definitely be tough, and he's one to look out for.
Yeah, I think we'll all be looking out for him.
That's the worst.
Let's just have a look at the rest of Liverpool's team that started against Bournemouth in their 2-0 win. So obviously Alisson was back in goal. There'll be no Trent Alexander-Arnold, we don't think. Konate and Van Dijk. Robinson, and will he start at left back? I'm not sure. He hasn't had the greatest of seasons. I've heard a lot of Liverpool fans say he's done. McAllister, you just mentioned there. Gravenbach, who's having the season of his life, of course he is. Mo Salah, Slobozai, Gakpo, and Diaz up front. They've opted recently to have him as a centre forward, and obviously, you know, you look at all the players. They're such a talented set of footballers. I mean, and then you know, you look at the bench and
Big small.
You've got so many good ones on the bench. It's not even worth talking about individuals as such as the team's must have been so good this season, and not to take it away from Liverpool in any way. I just feel like everybody else is having such a transitional period. Don't get me wrong, that's their fault, not Liverpool's fault. You know, Arsenal, they should be in the team the year they won the league, but they've cocked it up because they didn't go out and buy players, where Liverpool bought all their players last year, and they've been fantastic this year. For us, I mean, obviously, as we mentioned, the team who beat Leicester rather than the team who got beat by Bournemouth, obviously. Very similar to the side at the weekend, but obviously Mykolenko was in that side. Where can you see changes? Lindstrom, maybe? Yeah,
I thought against Bournemouth he was a bit quiet, and he almost forgot that he was even playing in that first half. And Jack Harrison came on, and you know, as he's had many people critique him, but I thought he came on and he was solid. And you know, he's put in some really nice crosses, and it was probably unfortunate to not have a goal and an assist. Really, on another day, I think he could have easily got it, but I don't know if it's just a bit too reactionary to just throw him in right away. You know, as you said, we're coming off the back of 3 wins in the Premier League where Lindstrom has played. And
I mean, for me, I would play Lindstrom probably, because I wouldn't go, well, Jack Harrison's had a good 15-20 minutes. I would look at the bigger picture and go, he understands that role of getting back and playing into a 5. But Harrison does as well, but I wouldn't just... I think the problem was we were like that. We have been like that all season. We've been so reactionary. Harrison's come on, done well, put him in the team. Lindstrom's come on, done well, put him in the team. I think we have to keep to a basic, and I think don't get me wrong, if there's a fatigue element in it, then you have to look to make changes. Don't get me wrong, you shouldn't always be looking to keep the same team all the time.
Yeah.
As I said, I think Decore will start mostly down to, number one, he presses well, but I do think he could be that player who is the outball. I think he could be used as the outball, and maybe Beto drops in. I think that's what he does give us, and that's Alcaraz would look good for 20 minutes, 25 minutes on Saturday, but he's not going to give you that.
No.
He's not the biggest lad in the world, and don't get me wrong, he'll get on the ball and carry it. He'll be good again for coming on for the last half an hour, but I do think we need, certainly in that first half, to be able to break out of our own half, and I think Decore might allow us to do that. So we'll see obviously what David Moyes thinks himself, but I think the rest of the team at the moment just picks itself. I mean, unless the manager looks at someone like, say, Tim Iroegbunam and says he's got
good chance against Bournemouth.
I know he might look at it and go, he's got, but I just can't see it. I think he'll go tried and trusted again, and if he does make changes, I think the changes will possibly be 3 days later against Crystal Palace, when he might look at it again and go, who's
less pressure,
who's tired, this is more of a game that will be open, and I can make a couple of changes, and players will have a couple of days more training, and players will have more time on the pitch, the likes of Alcaraz, maybe the likes of Iroegbunam, because they're all going to be needed. They're all going to be needed on Wednesday night. Let's get it right again. For an hour, we could keep Liverpool very quiet, and then that last half an hour, they make changes, and suddenly the game opens up, so changes will have to be made. Be quite hilarious if Michael Keane gets out the winning goal. That would be hilarious, but changes will need to be made. But it's going to be obviously a very, very tough game. We knew that already. I think again, we've got to be careful not to get carried away of, suddenly we look a better team, so that makes us a brilliant team. No, it doesn't. It just makes us a more competitive team. It doesn't make us a better team as such. We will and have proven that we can win more games, but let's not think that suddenly we're going to go and play Liverpool and we're going to be brilliant against them.
I think it's a tough one, isn't it? Because obviously we all want to say, we're going to go and win a battle, but as you said, the options that we have aren't great, and you just hope that maybe, with the coach welcoming and stuff like that, just giving everyone that extra step really, and we can just give them a proper game and sort of make them quiet, because as I mentioned sort of earlier, that I'm sure Liverpool fans watching would agree, in some of the games they haven't been the best, but they've managed to get results, and they do have off days, and
listen, they've got a very, very consistent level, and then someone like Salah pops up and does something brilliant.
Like the Bournemouth game, that could have easily been 2-0 to Bournemouth on another day when they played Bournemouth, and with Clive, missing like an open goal and stuff, so the opportunity I think will be there. It's just whether Everton can take it, really, is the big question of it, because they're not always this like super team that maybe people look at them like they are.
No, I know.
I'm confident we'll win.
James has already confirmed that we're getting 3 points. Now, it will be very, very tough, but again, it's one of those games where if Everton go out there and have a plan, and the plan works in terms of winning a game of football, I think that's all you can ask for, and the rest will take care of itself. It's as simple as that. The rest will take care of itself. So let us know in the comments, are you confident for this one? Are you worried? Obviously, you're going to be worried. It's a Merseyside derby, but it's the last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. Don't forget as well, there's going to be a bus welcoming for the team ahead of the Merseyside derby around 6 o'clock. All the details are on the 1878 social media account, all the details of where that's going to be ahead of the game on Wednesday night, because it's a big one, and let's make the atmosphere the best we possibly can and give the team the best chance we can to get the 3 points. So make sure, if you want to be there for the last night game, the last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park, you get down there and welcome the bus into Goodison Park. There you go. Let me know your thoughts, as I said, in the comments. Give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already. You want more great videos, join us over on Toffee TV Premier. The link is in the description. The QR code is coming on the screen now. See you later.